Annie Keir, welcome to this conversation at Global Ideas Forum 2017.
Thanks, it's great to be here.
We've been talking about some really big issues this weekend. What's your advice to younger people to take action on some of these really complex challenges for social change and global health?
I think a starting point is to get together with a bunch of people who share that concern. So to really meet either in someone's home or at some other place, get some information or look at some information, maybe a film, have a speaker, address, the issues through more information, and then almost immediately decide to form an action group. So, an action group is not a discussion group. It's a group that decides on purposeful action to address whatever that problem is. So I think that is a fantastic starting point, and I really believe that no matter what the problem, that is the most purposeful and helpful thing that people can do. And the reason for that is there is an indefinable and marvellous quality that comes out of action groups when you have a bunch of people addressing something together. And it's called collective intelligence. It's measurable, that you can research it, and it is greater than the sum of its parts. And it emerges from face-to-face groups. So not only are action groups very creative and helpful for fighting addressing a big problem, but there's a lot of emotional and psychological well-being to be had from being in those groups. My experience of an effective thing to do is actually to invite them to some, put on some attractor. This is provide an attractor, something that attracts people to address the issue. So I find films are really good. 30-minute films are ideal because, people come to watch the film, and then they just invite them, if they care about it, would they like to join with others to address the issue, get another date, suddenly you have an action group. So we do a lot of, in the Lock the Gate movement, we do a lot of encouraging and midwifing the formation of action groups, and but we realise that when you generate a lot of action groups, some thrive and do incredibly well, and some go flopsy and fall over.
Yeah, is there a secret sauce here? Well,
there is some secret sauce.
Tell us, what is it?
And look, there's a bunch of things that are very helpful, and for this reason, I ended up writing tip sheets, and with other people, tip sheets on how to have healthy, functioning action groups, some of which are on our website, lockthegate.org.au.
Can you give us a couple of tips?
Well, one is to have meetings that are focused, that have good facilitation, that don't go down a hole of worry talk, and that have really concise notes that don't go on forever, that come out within 2 days of the meeting, and that decide on strategies that involve purposeful strategies that either involve lots of communication with people at the grassroots, or purposeful, advocacy with politicians, So there's a bunch of things that people can do.
I want to contrast your movement, which was obviously extremely successful, with a similar type of movement. You might remember the 99%, the kind of global movement for kind of income equality, and that really it had a lot of momentum. There were people camping out in the streets of Melbourne, but then it really did flame out, and it seemed to me that they did have a distributed leadership network, which is something that you described in your presentation, but they really didn't get momentum, and they didn't really get to the next stage of action. And what do you think was the difference between that kind of a campaign and yours?
Well, I think that's a really useful question and an important one. it is important to have a political strategy, to have some campaign arc in mind, and to do some power mapping of what you want to change and power mapping of who has the power and how to influence those people. So it's really, whilst it's important to grow a turbulent and dynamic movement, which Occupy exemplified, that is not the same as having a tight and focused campaign. And I think you need both to win. So I think that's the thing that I have learnt through being in the Lock the Gate movement, is that it's really important to have a tight and focused campaign that has a laser focus on what you want to achieve and how you want to put the heat under the politicians till they deliver, and the turbulent generative movement.
You mentioned resilience in your presentation. What are the components of resilience that are important for building a movement that works?
We actually, when we, like, one of my roles is to build the capacity of community groups who are facing something terrible, a coal expansion or a gas field. And when we do this basic capacity building, we share information about what a resilient network looks like, and we give them information about what a non-resilient action group would look like. So, for example, it would just have one convener, who perhaps did everything. We explain the concept of choke points. Like Muriel, the local fabulous woman, might do everything in the community. She might be the person who does everything, and she convenes the group. And if she is that choke point, then her husband gets sick, the whole thing goes down. So that is a non-resilient little action group. So we explain all those principles of resilience that we need to have in resilience theory redundancies, but we need two people who can do every job, and so on a basic level we encourage that.
Are you optimistic about the future of global health and development and the social issues that are important to you? I am both optimistic and pessimistic. I think that we are facing really serious issues, and on multiple levels, and that communities will be dealing with a lot of difficulty. At the same time, I think this is a good moment in history when the conceptual framework that our civilization has had since the Industrial Revolution met the Enlightenment, which is a kind of mechanical view of human systems, is fading away. The 21st century is an era when we realise that the unit of agency is not an organisation but a network. And so this is really exciting. Have you enjoyed being part of Global Ideas Forum?
I certainly have, and I'm really glad to be here.